All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Millennials Are Old podcast. And you know what, Brian? I've been thinking, right? I think in general, you're a great podcaster for a white guy from Portland.
Oh, are
And
you
you know
doing the
what,
same bit I was gonna do?
Brian, this isn't a bit. I'm telling you what I think
God
of you
damn it.
slyly in a negging fashion. And you know what? What would help you even be a better podcaster, Brian, is buying my course on
I'm
the
suddenly feeling like I need to sleep with you. I suddenly feel lower, and like the only way that I can raise myself up is to impress you, and the only way to do that would be by having sex with you right now.
Exactly. And buying my self-help book, which is to teach you how to be a better podcaster and a better have sexer for sure.
The better
Definitely
victim.
that. Better victim, exactly. So with this morbid intro out of the way, let's just get into our subject because our audience is probably extremely confused.
I was prepping to do the same thing. I was gonna do that to you. I was gonna neg you.
So yes, today we're going to be talking about pickup artists. But before we get into our subject this week, Brian, let's bring back our segment, Cringe Generational Cringe Millennial Moment of the
Cringe
Week.
generational moment of the week? Week?
Woo! Yeah! And you know what? We haven't recorded in a few weeks now, but something that happened, I think, literally the day after we recorded, maybe the week before, I can't remember. But I do want to talk about somebody we've talked about on the show who's definitely not a pickup artist or an incel or even really that cringe, to be honest with you, but he's an individual, like I said, we've covered on the show before, and I really want to gloat to our neoliberal shill audience members real quick. So, Brian, I know we talked about him right after he won his primary, but now that he's won his election, we got to come back to Zohran Mamdani. How are you feeling about him?
I'm happy for Mamdani. I'm happy for everyone out there that works towards him. All of our, I don't know if you want to say our comrades or any of our brothers and sisters in arms who are working towards like a more progressive society. I don't want to bum anyone out. Anything he can do that will materially improve the lives of working people and just normal people in New York City is a positive. I got nothing bad to say about that. I think there are strategic pluses and minuses to supporting a social democrat right now. But given how bad everything is, I'm happy. I'm happy even to see that he won because if nothing else, that demonstrates the shifting of the tide, right? Does that make sense?
Yes. No, absolutely. I mean, the fact that even 5 years ago, somebody like Andrew Cuomo, and in fact, literally Andrew Cuomo, was going to be the next face of the Democratic Party, and now he
Yeah.
lost an election in a city that he was guaranteed to win just a few months prior to the primary.
A1
Like,
King of New York, baby.
yeah, a guy who hasn't lived in New York City since like 1992, by the way, on top of it, which is fucking hilarious. And his entire campaign was, this city's fucking disgusting and awful. Let me be mayor, and if not, I'm going to fuck off back to Florida.
And it literally doesn't matter to him that he lost. He can just sit on his fucking thumb and do whatever the fuck, harass women until he dies now or whatever.
Oh, no, for sure. In fact, he probably appreciates it now that he has nothing to, like, keep him
Yeah.
in row at all. He can just be a millionaire
Yeah.
in fucking Florida if he wants to. That's all he cares about, really. And
My-
being fucking stereotyped with his brother all the time. That's what he fucking
Be the
do.
ultimate walking fucking Quito, New York stereotype. Oh my god. They are committing hate crimes against their own people every time they speak.
No, but Brian, I do agree, though, real quick. I am very much cautiously optimistic, as I am with almost everything in American politics that is seen as, like, objectively good. But this time, I am more optimistic than cautious for the first time in a very long time, I will say.
Well, and for me, it has less to do with, because let's be honest, it's similar to like, even like with Bernie, God bless him, until recently with all the fucking, his shit ass takes about fucking Palestine and whatever. Like, we all know, really, you should know that when these guys or women win an election, it's not really, they're not going to be able to do that much, unfortunately. They're pretty hamstrung by the system. What's important more is like demonstrating that people want an alternative to like neoliberalism, right? Which is valuable and is important. I think for myself at this point, like I think probably what's necessary is a mass exodus from the Democratic Party, but I don't think we're quite there yet, right? I think you're going to need more people like Mamdani, more of your kind of post-Bernie. Unfortunately, and this guy's a fucking dumbass, but Graham Plattner was part of that too. More people like that coming up within the Democratic Party and winning or making headway before you'll get that mass exodus. I think ultimately, though, that's what we'll probably need. But I think I'm not one of those people that thinks like any step forward for a social democrat is like this ultimate compromise that's going to destroy like whatever you want to call it, like true progressive or revolutionary energy. I think like that's the place that we're at right now. Like there is not a moment where we're going to have, like, there's no bloodless left-wing coup about to happen in America, or bloody left-wing coup. We're just not there. So what you have right now is these moments where someone like Mamdani wins, and that's exciting. And that shows the presence of, like, a broadly left-wing, broadly populist base who can move elections and who can potentially do other things and can move social movements and can broaden to a mass movement. But we're still at, like, the agitation, like, kind of level of that. And again, if in the meantime, if Mamdani can do anything, if he can get the fucking free or subsidized buses, that's a win for the working people of New York. Who am I to sit and say, like, well, he's not fucking nationalizing all the banks, you know what I mean? Like, if he can do any of those things, then he is advancing the immediate lives of people in his city. And is it going to be sufficient to stop climate change or to stop impending fascism? Well, no. But, like, what's he going to do anyways? What is he supposed to do as the mayor of New York? Is he supposed to do, like, sanctions on Israel?
No, absolutely. But, there is something to be said, though, about a young guy, Democrat, socialist, more social democrat, but, that's not here or there. I mean, that's all semantics.
They're the same thing in America right now.
No, exactly. But a guy who's literally our age, right? A Muslim and Asian, like South Asian individual from Africa, beating a established Democrat in the world's richest city.
Yes.
A city of 8 million fucking people, tackling millions and millions of dollars from some of the most influential Democratic donors to still win a majority of the vote is insane.
It's important.
It's unprecedented. It's literally like, and obviously not comparing him to this. I mean, to be fair, this guy was also an African socialist. I'm kidding. But Obama, right? Like Obama, he tackled a lot of the big players in the Democratic Party at the time. And obviously he's a fucking big fraud and a piece of shit and maybe the most cynical politician of our lifetime. And that's saying something.
Yeah.
But, like that is to the level that I think a lot of people feel right now. Like they saw this guy from a relatively unknown political background just basically destroy the established Democratic Party and win a massive election. And people are seeing this obviously a much smaller scale because the city versus a country. But at the same time, it's like, this is a political sea change. I think a lot of people were not prepared for it in January of this year, like let alone fucking 4 or 5 years ago.
And I think that's the thing is like, if you want this big, like without getting, again, we're not like a political podcast for the most part. If you want to see some kind of big radical or like socialist change or progressive change, like that does happen at a moment. So it's not like you can't wait for like a millennial fucking like Lenin to pop up. That's just not the moment we're at, right? But what we have are these moments that are big moments that are going to signify those sea changes. Every time someone like Mamdani wins, there's a risk that they might be like Obama. What did Obama do? 2008, he runs a fairly like social democratic, his first campaign was pretty left-leaning for America. His second less so. But his first campaign appealed to a lot of kind of what we would call now like Green New Deal shit, right? The danger with that is that your candidate might siphon all of that kind of class conscious or that progressive energy and redirect it back to the DNC, which I think is what we saw with Obama, right? But the other possibility is that you've got this expanding of possibilities. Like that's what Mamdani represents to me. And that's even what Bernie represents. It's not that they're going to get in there and immediately do all these things. It's that their victories, the victory of Mamdani is an opportunity to kind of like expand the imaginations of Americans. Our imaginations, which have been whittled down into this end of history fucking capitalist realism miasma, right? That right now our immediate goal is to break that, to make people able to imagine something else. Because most people can't, unfortunately. And that's what Mamdani represents to me.
No, absolutely. And, on top of it, too, a few years ago, a proto-Mamdani-like candidate, although somebody who is significantly weaker as a individual and candidate, but Brandon Johnson won the Chicago mayor race in 2023, beating a establishment Dem scumbag, a guy who literally ran, like, advocacy group for, like, charter schools and shit. Brandon Johnson barely won that election. And to be fair, he is insanely unpopular. Last time I checked, he has a 15% approval rating. But, that's neither here nor there. But he campaigned on a lot of the same ideas that Zohran Mamdani had, and some of them worked. A lot of them didn't. Once again, the 15% approval rating in Chicago. But at the same time, like, that expanded people's horizons because they're like, oh, this fucking Democratic fucking neoliberal shill still lost. Granted, it was, once again, a very close election, unlike what happened in New York City where the election was called within, like, fucking 30 minutes. And then on top of it, too, another one, big neoliberal loss that was called just a few days ago as of recording, but the Seattle mayor race, which is an extremely close election, had a neoliberal establishment incumbent candidate, Bruce Harrell, lose against, I think her name is Katie Wilson, I think her name was. I can't remember her name at the moment. But, that's the thing is that the biggest candidate or the biggest political person to endorse Bruce Harrell was Pete Buttigieg. And I'm like, yes, another loss for that fucking idiot.
Yeah, fuck him. them. So I think
By the way, you know, he's coming to Wisconsin to campaign in Western Wisconsin in a few months.
I mean, I feel like Buttigieg could still do well in Western Wisconsin, right? That's still a pretty, like, center blue area.
I think just in general, I mean, Pete did pretty poorly in Wisconsin when the 2020 election happened. I don't know if his name has that much cachet. And he was also part of a pretty unpopular administration in a state that Kamala lost, although to be fair, pretty close. And Biden barely fucking won. So I don't think his name really would have much cachet. And on top of it, too, he lives in Michigan now, which, I mean, Wisconsin, Michigan has a bit of a rivalry. So, you know, maybe there's some weirdness there.
Yeah, people are going to hold that over like this fucking Youper.
Yeah. He's almost a Youper, actually, which is hilarious. But you know what? Speaking of people who really supported Brandon Johnson, Let's Go Brandon campaign, let's talk a bit about pickup artists, our subject.
Roosh V.
Roosh V, 100%. Roosh V, Mystery. Ooh, boy, Mystery, what a cool motherfucking guy. The guy who wrote The Game. Cool dude.
What is his
cool
name?
Dude.
And really, I mean, there's a few of these first wave PUA guys. Those are probably the three, I would say, right? There's Neil Strauss, Mystery, and Roosh V for like first wave or early second wave pickup artists, right? Is that fair?
I would say so, yes. Especially Mystery, because Mystery was, well, Neil Strauss was the first guy, but Mystery was like the guy that I first saw as the original pickup artist. I mean, he had the VH1 show pickup artist.
He was peacocking. You could not see him.
Yeah. Oh man, he is a very handsome man with a awesome hat. Just a cool hat.
Yeah, I have a lot to say about all these guys, and we have actually on the show, in the context of reviews and media analysis, we've talked about toxic masculinity and how capitalism is bad for men, and how, you know, like, men feel alienated in ways that are hard to express, and that makes them become misogynist or, you know, harm themselves or whatever. So this, you know, we have broached these subjects before, but where do we start with the pickup artist subculture and industry, Taylor?
So I want to start off with what I think are, and obviously not the origins of the idea of alienated men trying to manipulate women into having sex, because that's something you could go back literally millennia for to figure out.
Yeah, but Lord Byron made a career writing poems like that.
Yeah, exactly. But in the modern context, I think you can pretty easily pinpoint pickup artistry in the modern seduction movement or seduction community, if you will, which is ultimately about oftentimes, you know, economically or socially disaffected young to middle-aged men. I would say middle-aged at the very latest, but usually guys in their like 20s to 30s who are maybe economically downwardly mobile, don't really have a whole lot of class consciousness, have a lot of reactionary viewpoints, maybe not even like purposely like
not consciously necessarily,
but guys who want a vision.
They're sad guys.
Exactly. A like type of guy who wanted the sort of quote unquote traditional like white picket fence, nuclear family thing, but due to their own, you know, social awkwardness or their own lack of economic opportunity or just in general their like social failings, they are like, well, the only
they're a bunch of mental midgets.
Yeah, basically, right? I mean, to be fair, some of them really are. But, you know, at the same time, like the way that they see to get that is through pure manipulation because they don't feel that their general positive attributes are a way to get the type of woman or the type of relationship they want. So they fall into these rabbit holes of, well, I'm not good enough, I suck, so I'm going to make myself feel more powerful by degrading people, degrading women, degrading the people around me. I'm going to be alpha, sigma, all that fucking pseudoscientific fucking bullshit. And they follow these fucking con artists, like, once again, Mystery and Roosh V. And I think Neil Strauss has since, like, criticized The Game
Mystery
thing.
as well. Like, all three of them have in very different ways. I'll talk about that later.
I did know a bit about Roosh V and Neil Strauss, but I'm not familiar with Mystery, so hold off on that, Brian, real quick, because I want to prepare myself for that one. But just in general, to be fair, there are more pickup artists than just these three guys, obviously. It's an entire community of disaffected fucking losers who, to be honest with you, I don't think they're all pernicious, but they're all misguided, at the very bare minimum misguided.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback off what you said. So as Taylor said, the 2000s, the millennial age did not invent men manipulating women to try to have sex with them. Taylor's oldest time, the term pickup artist, and even like the idea of sort of like, I'm a pickup artist, I sleep with a lot of chicks. That phrase had actually been floating around since the 70s, but it's just a type of guy. There wasn't, I think, a technique. There's just, you'd be like, that guy's a real pickup artist. What you really see is, and I don't think it's a coincidence, it comes at the dawn of the internet age. This specific thing, these guys that identify as pickup artists, they use that phrase themselves, instead of it just being like a guy saying about his friend, oh, you're a real pickup artist. And it gamifies sex and dating. And that's very important because it's being marketed marketed to a lot of awkward guys who probably played a lot of video games, and a non-zero number of whom were probably undiagnosed and on the spectrum, and were looking for solutions to that. This is not to excuse the toxicity of the pickup artist thing, but the gamification of sex and dating is, I think, very important. It's the idea that there's some secret code, some up, down, left, right shit that you do to a woman's brain, and she has to have sex with you if you do it. It has nothing to do with your pleasure or hers. Any success that you have with a woman using as a pickup artist has nothing to do with the possibility that she might have just wanted to have sex with you. That never enters their mind, which is so bizarre to me. Because pickup artist techniques, they can be successful because they're psychotic, right? But sometimes I'm inclined to think, I bet some of these guys end up getting laid just because they were doing this dumb bullshit to an annoyed woman who wanted to get laid. Because, you know, women experience the full breadth of human sexuality and emotion. But for these guys, the way they write about sex and the way that they perceive women receiving sex, or not receiving, but taking part in sex, it has nothing to do with pleasure. And I don't just mean intimacy. It almost seems, it is like, for them, it's like a power play thing, and it's like racking up numbers, right? And like you said, they're not all pernicious. It's not all that conscious. I think that if we focus on Rouge, Strauss, and Mystery, and like you said, there are more of these guys in the first wave, you've got a good little cross-section of three main types of pickup artists in this area. You've got the gamify, the logic guy. I'd say that's Neil Strauss. Neil Strauss, there's some pretty heinous stuff in the game. Of course there is. Most of it's pretty heinous. But his actual tone, as I recall, and I never read that book, I've seen bits of it, and I've seen interviews with the guy in my research this week, is he's trying to approach it as I'm a logic guy, I'm being very scientific. That's the veneer he has on it. Then you've got Mystery. Mystery's the dork, right? So he's trying way too hard to be cool. He's like, I want to be a cool guy, and having sex with lots of women is going to help me be a cool guy. Our third category here, Rushfi, is the psychopath. All three of these guys are doing bad things, but I think, so you've got the logic nerd, the try-hard dork, and the psychopath. I think that's a pretty good, broad cross-section of main pickup artist types.
Yeah, and in general, it's like a Venn diagram. A lot of different pickup artists and guys who are in the quote-unquote seduction community can fit into multiple ones of these, obviously. Not all exclusive, but at the same time, I think those are the three broad categories. I totally fucking agree. The statistic or, statistician nerd, if you will, as you talked about it, just the regular dork, and then the evil psychopath rapist. And to be fair, once again, there's a lot of types of these guys who all intersect into various things. Some of them are on the more incel-y side of pickup artists. Some of them are on the more men's rights-ish side. I mean, they're all kind of men's rights guys, you know what I mean? But some are
they all start at men's rights, I think. Or vice versa. Maybe it's that they all start at pickup artists. I want to date, I want to get laid, why can't I? And then they become politicized through that a lot of the time, I think.
I personally think my theory is that pickup artists is where it starts, at least in my opinion. In fact, there is a specific subreddit called PUA Hate, which is an incel subreddit, and it starts from guys
incel subreddit.
Exactly. Guys who started PUA stuff, but then got disaffected through whatever means they do. I mean, incels are also a whole bag of worms that we're going to get into purely on a later episode. I mean, we'll talk about them a little bit because, PUAs, a lot of them end up incels for the fuck of it.
PUA Hate, right? They take the wrong lesson. What you should, if you do pickup artist shit and it doesn't work, the realization you're supposed to come to is this is stupid and weird, and it's not a good way to engage with human beings. It's not a good way to view or approach sexuality or relationships, because it's not. And by the way, just the fact that all kinds of weird goofy guys fuck, and all kinds of weird goofy guys fuck hot women all the time, disproves all of these premises. But they have blinders onto that. The PUA Hate guys are guys that they do all of the pickup artist stuff, and it doesn't work. The reason it doesn't work is because it's a fucking numbers game, and also just because they're probably just unsettling guys, right? They're just probably awkward guys. But PUA Hate, and again, this is the incel thing more, so I don't want to get too into it. They then go, well, the reason that some pickup artists work is because they're genetically predisposed to fucking. There's nothing that will work for me, and pickup artistry is a lie to steal my money. Well, the reason it's a lie is because it's evil, and if it works, it's purely by chance, right?
Especially in the modern internet age, basically everything is a fucking scam. If somebody's trying to sell you something that has a 100% success rate, it is a 100% a scam. There is nothing out there, no technique of anything, let alone financial, romantic, athletic, anything. If they guarantee you 100% success or multiple times your investment or whatever, it's a fucking scam. And instead of these guys seeing as this shit's a scam, and instead of just treating women, and to be fair, once again, pickup artists are like almost exclusively heteronormative thing. So that's why we're talking about it like fucking women, to be very clear. There technically could be pickup artists who are like gay guys looking for men.
It would be different.
It would be totally different. Theoretically, that's a thing, but let's be real here. Pickup artists are almost exclusively to a 100% a heteronormative thing. That's why we're talking about it this way. So if you have issues with that in the comments, feel free to give me an example of gay pickup artists. I will 100% be fascinated by looking into that. But for our intents and purposes, especially for the millennial aspect of it, it is 100% straight guys, like painfully straight men trying to fuck women. That's what it's about. Well, like, let's be clear here.
They talk about it. All these guys talk about it like it's as if it has a 100% success rate. One of the major, probably the major point that Neil Strauss puts in his book is you're going to ask out 100 women before one of them sleeps with you. They say you need to approach every woman you talk to. And it's like, well, yeah, if you do that, eventually some people are going to have sex with you. You'd almost think by him admitting that, it kind of like if you think about it for like 5 minutes, you go, oh, that means the rest of this is all bullshit.
Well, you know what's interesting about it too is that, and obviously when he wrote that book, that was like what, late 90s, early 2000s. That was like 25, almost 30 fucking years ago at this point. But the whole thing, right, with the statistics around what women tend to find the most attractive hobbies and interests of men, once again, this is heteronormative to be very clear, is the highest like tier hobbies that women find attractive are like enrichment and like intellectual activities. And at the very bottom is stuff like this. It is manipulation. It is like gambling. It is self-destructive behaviors. Those are the things that straight women tend to find the least attractive in partners. In fact, literally, red pill and pickup artistry is like literally like low single digits amount of women find that attractive in a partner. Well, you're more likely to find a woman who is into like watching car crash videos than women who like pickup artistry and red pill shit.
Because on some level, straight women, they have to at some level become attuned to this because they're going to be, by the time they're 12 or 13,
it's self-preservation.
Encountering it. Right. So they're going to pick up on these, and they are going to, for the most part, learn to sense your weird energy. Can I tell you something really funny that I learned about pickup artistry and something I read that's directly from the game that made me very happy, Taylor?
Yes, please.
So in the game, Strauss talks about funny, charming things you can say to a woman. And my favorite one is he was like, oh, here's a technique. You take 2 Tic Tacs and you put one on your mouth and you suck on it slowly. And then you put the other Tic Tac in the woman's mouth as she's talking. And then a few seconds later, you say, there's something I forgot to tell you. I'm an Indian giver and I want my Tic Tac back. And then you kiss her.
Oh my fucking God. That is such loser shit. I can't even comprehend that.
Also, he says Indian giver.
This is really funny to me because I quite literally did that to my girlfriend without telling her. I had like a fucking like mint in my mouth and I gave her like a French kiss and gave it to her. It's like, ah!
Right, but that's your girlfriend and you were being like gross and silly.
Yeah, I was like
trying to look mysterious.
No, but that's so funny that like that scene is like, ooh, there's a way to like turn a woman on when I know objectively that did not turn her on, which is so fucking funny.
Okay, there are situations where if a woman finds you attractive, like you don't always explicitly say, I'm going to kiss you now. People, if they like each other, consent each other. There's a situation where you can kiss someone if you're having a vibe. Don't ever spit your Tic Tac into a woman's mouth, like unless she specifically wants you to. That's not going to go over.
And that's the thing about a lot of these like pickup artist tactics or whatever is that there is a like deep truth buried in them that a lot of these like pickup artists I think get value in, which is the idea of just literally approaching and talking to women that you find interesting.
Eye contact. Speaking clearly.
Yeah, just like literally anything. It's just like, and to be fair, obviously he's not a pickup artist, but he's definitely admired by a lot of pickup artists and incels and red pill losers in general.
Jordan,
but it's like when Jordan Peterson talks about cleaning your room and like doing all these things, and it's like, yes, of course those are good things for you, but like that's a basic tenet of being a functional adult is like not shitting yourself playing video games for 12 hours a day.
And on the darker side too, so one of the things you'll see sometimes, and people will say, well, pickup artist stuff doesn't even work. Unfortunately, I think that especially what I've seen of Neil Strauss and Rushvi, mystery stuff, which is a little goofier, a little more reality TV, maybe not so much. I think both Rushvi and Neil Strauss were extremely successful in very nasty ways. What does everyone remember about pickup artistry? They know negging, right? Which, we talked about at the beginning. You subtly insult a woman to make her feel bad about herself because the theory is that then she will subconsciously want your approval and will sleep with you. I believe that negging works on a certain type of person. The thing that the pickup artists think is that there's all kinds of stuff like this. that is horrible, that is extremely violating and it's pretty coercive, borders sexual assault type activity. It's things that would be paired with sexual assault a lot of the time. No, pickup artist mindset, you see this a lot with Rouge Fee, is this works on a certain number of women, so it must be right. It's good that I'm doing this, or else it wouldn't work.
It's like, literally might makes right.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. If this was bad, it wouldn't work, which is absolutely not psychotic. It is like psychopath logic, though. It is might makes right. Yeah.
No, and honestly, as we talked about, obviously the pernicious stuff with Neil Strauss, but I did also want to talk about the pernicious stuff with Mystery, because I did not get a chance to watch the VH1 Mystery Show.
It's hard to find.
Any torrents up. It's really hard to find. It only had 2 seasons on VH1. I found a couple people on YouTube talking about it and seeing the ways that, like, he really, the one out of the 3 that got into the most, like, mystic shit, like the mystical things, like, it's about energy, and it's like, it literally is like spirit, like fucking crunchy hippie bullshit at certain points. It was crazy to hear this.
And I wonder if some of the woo-woo crunchy hippie shit came more from VH1 when he was on the show. I wonder. I don't know that. I have a feeling that Mystery's actual thing was more the peacocking and the more like, you got to be really memorable, and that maybe some of the, obviously the peacocking was goofy and that's what got him the show. I wonder if the goofiest shit, the like ideological shit, was kind of for the camera. Maybe.
I agree. I think that is definitely a possibility because, yeah, you're right. His whole thing was like peacocking. His whole thing was trying to be memorable. His whole thing was just like, I am going to be as like flamboyant as possible to try to get a woman's attention. Because if she sees a guy who's 6 feet tall, looks just gnarly, ghastly, skinny guy with steampunk aesthetic, she's just going to really want to know, like, what is that guy's deal? And then that just leads me into the conversation.
What's annoying about this is like, so it is true that if you have an eccentric sense of style, or you like if you have a sense of style that sticks out, that will make you interesting to certain women. That's part of why we have styles, right? I'm not saying that's the main reason why or the only reason why. It is to draw the interest, and not necessarily the sexual or romantic interest, but the interest of someone else with similar styles. So it is good to stand out. I do think, especially as a man, it's good to stand out. But the thing is, when they talk about peacocking, they aren't saying develop a style, like an aesthetic that you think is cool and that you feel comfortable in and that reflects your personality and will be interesting to a specific type of person who likes the same things. What they're saying is you need to look as stupid as possible. You need to wear shit you don't even like that doesn't make any sense. Because for some reason, because they think women have the brains of like toddlers, and they'll be like, ooh, I like your hat. Let's have sex.
And, you know, that's the thing, right, is that somebody who, and obviously, Brian, you have a very distinct sense of style that, like, is genuinely interesting, especially considering you came from the upper Midwest and now you live in, like, Portland. Like, there's nobody who dresses like you in Wisconsin, to be very clear. Like, nobody. I swear to God, nobody.
For the listeners, I would describe my style as a mix of, just to give you an idea, 70s power pop and, like, 90s, like, wigger.
Yes. And like I said, I go through all parts of Wisconsin pretty much outside of like the fucking Lake Superior coast every year. There's literally nobody who looks like you in Wisconsin, to be very clear. It is crazy how rare your archetype is in Wisconsin. And Wisconsin's not even like the most like conservative reactionary place. In a lot of places it's actually like Madison is more liberal than fucking San Francisco, and I would not see you in Madison.
And that's why I wanted to single out this peacocking thing, is because I have not always a flamboyant style, but I have a kind of flamboyant style. I like kind of weird clothes. I like, you know, things that you call funky or whatever. But it's because I like them, I'm comfortable in them, and you try to wear them in a way that makes sense. You shouldn't be doing it specifically with the intention of meeting people, like sex partners, but that does make sense, right? There's a logic to it, and it will work. It will work if you are trying to draw in someone with similar interests. So that's cool, you know, maybe me and this guy have something to talk about. The pickup artist thing, what Mystery teaches is literally you need to dress like a moron, because that'll make you stand out. It is not always good to stand out. Just because you're standing out doesn't mean someone's going to want to sleep with you.
No, I totally agree. Like, standing out isn't necessarily the best thing you want to do in a lot of environments. I mean, I can tell you the people who stand out to me in regards to their fashion, aesthetic, or just general lifestyle choices are almost never for positive reasons. Although, to be fair, I do work in a different environment than a lot of people do. So I work in healthcare, to be very clear. So if somebody's standing out, like, once again, for any above reasons, it's usually not for a very good reason. I'm not going to lie.
Well, kind of depends on how you're standing out and why you want to. So the pickup artist thing is, it's all gamification. It's all notches on your bedpost. I'm not saying this from a moralistic thing. I don't care if you want to have as much sex as possible. That's cool, whatever. It makes the most sense, though, to be trying to meet people, even if it's for something casual, that you will have something in common with, right? Not to just try to get every woman you see. Now, here's the thing. Unless you're mystery and you're on TV, so for pickup artists, I believe that the type of women that they are trying to fuck are what they would call like Stacy's, right? I don't know if that nomenclature is still used, but like, you know, very normy, like blonde, perfect figure, not people that are super interesting to me. And most of those people aren't gonna like that you're wearing your big, stupid pimp hat to the supermarket or whatever, right? Like, the people that are most likely to respond to your weird clothes are gonna be kind of weird. But it doesn't seem like that's what they're looking for.
No, absolutely. Like, you know, just in general, like the quote unquote aesthetic that I have. And to be fair, I don't really have a distinct aesthetic. I don't think. I just have long blonde hair.
You have an aesthetic.
Well, fair enough. But what I'm trying to say, right, is that like the only thing that I try to focus on is wearing clean clothes that fit and relatively match. Very neutral, dark colors. Once again, I have long blonde hair. A lot of people think I'm like a surfer or like a skater. That's absolutely not what the fuck I am. I'm not a very chill person.
Your style, I would say, is very like normcore. It is like you wear things that match and are clean, which for like straight men, that's his style, to be honest. And then like, you know, because you have long blonde hair, you look like a guy from the Midwest that's into metal, which you are.
Exactly. I almost never get metal, which is bizarre to me because I think I look
because you're blonde.
By black hair.
I don't know why people would think you were a surfer. You're very pale.
Oh, I get that all the time. And obviously this wasn't in a dating context, but I remember when I was working in prison. To be fair, I would say, you know, when I went to prison, it's because I worked in a prison. I've never actually been incarcerated or even been arrested. But at the same time, I remember one time there was an inmate that came up to me and said, "Can I tell you something?" And I'm like, "Yes, go ahead." And he said, "I bet you love skinny blonde bitches." And I'm like, "You would be wrong."
You really do.
You would be wrong.
And then you and him bonded over that. He was like, "Hell yeah, brother."
Yeah. But no, at the same time, like in general, like the type of women that I attract typically are generally more alternative or I guess more like homebodies. You know, to be fair, I've attracted the ethnic diversity of the world, basically, of like type of women. So obviously I don't really care about demographics. Well, it's like, but that doesn't ever matter to me. But like in general, I generally date either like vaguely alternative women who, you know, like more mainstream-ish music, but obviously are slightly to the like
they're
center,
a little quirked
like
up.
Off to the left. Yeah, a little more quirked up, exactly.
But that's because you're putting out a vibe that, like,
yeah,
I have to assume that is pretty approachable, you know, like, because that's the whole thing that the pickup artist guys are not getting. If pickup artistry works for, if you have sex while you're trying to do the pickup artistry thing, then you had sex in spite of that, not because of it. And guess what? Women will always pick up on your vibe, no matter what little game you're playing, whatever cheat code you're trying to put in, whatever perfect combination of words you think can go out of your mouth. I mean, unless they're like very inexperienced or they've got other stuff. For the most part, women, they are so good at picking up on vibes. I mean, the only thing that might be an immediate factor before your vibes are your looks. And like looks do play a role, but it has more to do with how groomed you are and how presentable you are. You know what I mean? It's not about being super buff and chiseled and having this insane jawline or whatever the fuck. But you gotta fix the vibes. And the only way to fix the vibes is to look inward. And you have to fix that for yourself. You can't pick up artist your vibes away.
No, absolutely. And I think just in general, and I know this is once again such stock shitty advice, but it is generally true, is, you know, you gotta be yourself. And to be fair, if yourself is like a not toxic shitty person, just lean into that. Just be like, if you're a fucking nerd, be a cool fucking nerd. And I know that sounds like a contradiction to like a lot of like normies out there, but like legitimately, if you're into Legos, be into fucking Legos. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, like look into the history of it, or like collect certain types that you really want to collect, or like, hey, I built this like 10,000 piece thing of just like, I just figured it out and I just spent all day fucking putting this thing together. And I guarantee you will find a woman, if that's what you're looking for, who is so into that. I promise you will find that eventually.
The other thing, and this kind of goes hand in hand with that, I think, is though when we talk about guys with pickup artists, and then this extends, I actually think incels inherited this from pickup artists and they made it even more extreme, is the problem is that a lot of these people don't necessarily want to meet someone who's attracted to them for their interests. They're people with eccentricities or or awkwardness or whatever, any human foibles, but they want to date supermodels. Like, that's what they think they should be dating.
They want to date women who they see as a purely transactional exercise in sexual power. They see those women as high status, quote unquote, high value, which is the exact same language they use. And that's what they see. But at the same time, if you're looking for a genuine human connection, quote unquote, value is what you see in it. And like the type of connection that you see with a person. It has literally nothing to do with what society deems as high value. Because like, to be honest with you, like the whole as we described as Stacy, and obviously to be fair, these women can have rich inner lives. Obviously, they're
of
not
course,
stereotypes of like blonde people. Like I would be so fucking bored dating a stereotypical like blonde white woman. Like I would have very little in common with. I'm gonna be honest. Like that kind of basic stereotypical like Stacy white woman. I would have very little in common with them to talk about. Like what am I gonna talk about with them? Am I gonna talk about 90s black metal with them? Like not really.
Well, and I think here we've addressed one of the big issues. We've addressed the gamification, which I think Strauss really, they all do, but Strauss really pioneers. We've addressed some of the peacocking and you have to stand out and be really flamboyant, which again, they all do, but I think Mystery really exemplifies. And we've talked about, we're talking about how a lot of these guys, they're not necessarily looking for human connection, and a lot of them are seeing women as status or as a thing to collect. I think that leads pretty well into the darkest of these guys until Andrew Tate.
That's Rushvi. That's motherfucking Rushvi. And to be clear, obviously, a lot of things have been written about Rushvi over the years, obviously overwhelmingly negative. He literally wrote, like, quote-unquote guides on basically how to rape different women in various countries and continents. The way he talked about sex was so fucking gross, so unsettling, and it's very clear that he hates sex. It is literally an exercise in domination and sadistic pleasure. That's literally, and not even really pleasure, just sadism in general. It's disgusting.
No. So Roosh, when he was writing pickup artistry stuff, because he has now since moved on to other bizarre evil things, what he really focused on was the display of, like you said, it's might makes right, very openly about gaslighting women, about degrading women, about putting them in a position where they felt a need to please you. The way he wrote about sex, if he wasn't such a horrid guy, it would be almost funny. He says things like, sex is supposed to be fun, so when you're having sex with her, just worry about yourself. If you're thinking about her pleasure, then you're sacrificing your own. He sees women as like tools to masturbate with.
No, absolutely. And that's one of those things too, where like people who genuinely like having sex are people who part of the pleasure, and to be fair, a lot of the pleasure is also seeing the pleasure of other people, the person you're having sex with. Like the enjoyment of sex should be that you're both enjoying it.
And that's one of the funny things about Rushvi, maybe one of the only funny things, is that he hates sex, and he's such a psycho that the idea of his partner having any sort of sensation during sex doesn't make sense to him. Roosh, I'm pretty sure that this is on record. He has pretty openly talked about in his previous relationships committing physical assault. He was dating Twitter personality Shanley. They got into a Twitter argument after the relation was over, and he started tweeting about how when they were dating, he used to choke her out till she passed out. Maybe that's a joke. Funny joke, if so.
I will say I would not be surprised if it was true.
Well, okay, so why would you say that just purely as a joke? Like, I used to get mad at my girlfriend and choke her till she passed out. Ha, just kidding. His books, so he's written a lot of books. His most infamous books are about the Baltic states. Bang Estonia, Bang Latvia, Bang Lithuania. He has a whole series of these. Now, these are not the first sex tourism manuals, but they were very specifically marketed to burgeoning, kind of internet groups. This group that was kind of what became the incel group, the men's rights group, all of that. And tactics in there range from general pickup artist stuff applied in other countries to obviously, picking out women who are economically vulnerable or in need. And obviously there's a whole subject about sex work, but exploiting these women, to tactics that, from what I've read, which is not a lot to be fair, border on sexual assault in the level of coercion that is involved.
Yeah, no, it is genuinely revolting. And to be fair, obviously I didn't read any of the books that he wrote or really get into him too much at all, but all the commentary videos on him and, subreddit posts and just in general, even hearing him in his own words occasionally through, once again, those commentary channels or whatever, it is genuinely scary looking at him. And also, to be fair, he has no soul in his eyes. His eyes
He's got the dead eyes.
Black pits. He's got dead fucking eyes. He's a scary individual. And obviously, nowadays he's gotten into some weird Orthodox Christianity or something. Is that his whole thing now? Or was that back in the past?
No, that's about about where he's at currently, as far as I know. So all three of these guys have ended up, they have all, as I said, renounced pickup artistry in very different ways. Roosh has the darkest, none of them are great, I would say, except maybe Strauss's. He's made the darkest turn. So Roosh was an early kind of alt-right figure. He was active, he wasn't an instigator on Gamergate, but he kind of saw it brewing up, saw it bubbling up in the same circles he was kind of part of, and he started incorporating it into his rhetoric. He started kind of getting involved in it. He kind of broadened his thing from the sex tourism pickup artist thing to a kind of broader anti-feminist thing. We aren't allowed to be men anymore. We need to take women down a peg. So it's almost like he was fighting multiple fronts, like against women. He was fighting as a pickup artist on like the sexual front, and then culturally Gamergate on that front. He went further and further into the right-wing thing, to the point where he did go to prison in Russia or in the States? I think he went to prison in Russia, if I'm not mistaken.
That's a rough place to go to prison.
Roosh did go to jail. He comes out and he's decided now he's full on, describes himself as a white nationalist. He's definitely a Christian nationalist, though. He is like a Dark Ages traditional Catholic. This is how he describes himself. He also says that pickup artistry is actually for weak men. It's a sign of Western degeneracy, that actually you need to have one wife who is totally subservient to you and who you only sleep with and who basically is your property. And that's actually what a real man should do.
No, honestly, that is a pretty dark thing. Even just ending up in fucking jail or prison in Russia is scary enough due to your own degeneracy or whatever the fuck he was doing. I mean, who the fuck knows? Knowing Russia, it was probably just because he called himself gay or something just to piss somebody off, and that sent him to fucking jail.
Or he was posting things online that annoyed them and made them look.
He posted something positive about Ukraine. That's what put him in fucking prison or some shit. Who the fuck knows?
Yeah.
But no, honestly, that's the whole thing, is that a lot of this self-hatred can just lead to just so many negative things in general. I mean, to be fair, self-hatred is kind of the base of fascism. That is the basic tenet of fascism, is that you see yourself as just so awful that you externalize that hatred to other people that you consider even lesser than somehow to make yourself feel better. That's why a lot of pickup artists are just straight up fascists, straight up.
They all become fascists because that's what they're laid on. I did look this up. Roosh was in jail. He's never served a prison sentence. So let me
Okay, fair enough. And obviously that could be anywhere from a day to almost a year or so. But either way, he still ended up incarcerated due to this shit. I mean, it's not great, or whatever he did.
Due to something, yeah.
So, but you talked about Mystery, right? I'm curious, what was Mystery's whole falling out? I'm curious now.
Mystery's thing was sadder. I mean, they're all sad, but I mean, I feel a little more bad for him. No. Mystery falling out with the community. Mystery slept with a lot of women. He had numbers into the hundreds, the vast hundreds. I do not believe he's lying when he says this. Had a successful reality show, which in turn probably led to him having sex with more women. His parents died. I think his father died and then his mother. And he had an extreme breakdown, at which point he basically says that he had to confront the fact that he was doing the pickup artist thing to deal with problems that he'd never dealt with regarding his family, right? And that the death of his parents was forcing him to now say there's something wrong with me that I have to fix. Pretty sad stuff. So he's no longer a pickup artist. I think he's just kind of a guy now.
I mean, to be fair, that's sad, but it's definitely good that he had a realization that didn't end up with him, at least as far as we know of, truly, hurting somebody, particularly a woman that he had sex with or tried to manipulate. So, I mean, there's some positivity there. There's a bit of a redemption arc, or at the very least, a lapse of being a piece of shit.
The closest thing we have to a redemption arc is Strauss, the author of the game, who eventually just met a woman he really liked and married her and was like, oh, all this stuff is stupid. You should just try to meet someone you like. Now, what's annoying about him, he tries to have his cake and eat it too, right? He tries to go hey, I was just writing little things off the dome. I didn't expect everyone to buy this book and take it so serious. Don't get mad at me because all these people started a community, kind of downplaying how weird and aggressive some of the things in the game are, right?
No, absolutely. I mean, there's a reason why, Marilyn Manson teamed up with Neil Strauss, because, those guys had some very interesting ideas on how to attract women in general.
Well, yeah, but it all kind of fits together, right?
No, absolutely, it really does. But speaking of positive things, now that we got to see some of the top 3 losers renounce their views to obviously positive to negative experiences, Brian, because it's getting a little late at this point, Brian, do we have any final thoughts, or do you have anything to add before we get to our final thoughts?
Don't do this shit if you're a young man, you're trying to meet women or talk to women. I'm gonna say I've been very awkward through most phases of my life. I'm at a place now where I can talk to women pretty comfortably and feel good about myself. People get mad when we say this. It's not helpful. You do have to try try to be yourself and just try to find someone that'll like you. I hate to say this. I know when you're frustrated and you're lonely how stupid it sounds. Someone that likes you for who you are, someone that likes you organically. Or, you know what? If you're gonna try to have casual sex, just try to have casual sex. But your best bet is still to try to find someone that likes you, who you have something in common with, right? Develop some basic social skills and some basic grooming. Wear clothes that fit, wear clothes that are clean, shave or have a beard. Women like beards. And speak clearly and look people in the eye, Just kind of learn to read the room a little bit. When the pickup artist thing works, it doesn't work because of all the fucking magic tricks and cheat codes. It works in spite of itself. You just gotta figure out a vibe. You gotta feel comfortable. And it's not gonna work all the time. You're not gonna fuck every super hot supermodel that you see. But that's the only thing you can do. That's the only thing you can do long term that's going to be good for you.
No, I 100% agree. And, very much piggybacking off your point, just in general, just find women that you can vibe with. Honestly, I think in general, the thing that would really help a lot of men in general is just having either acquaintances or genuine friendships with women first before you try to start dating. And I'm not saying if you're 19 and really fucking horny that you just can't have sex too at the same time, but literally just having a handful or even just one or two really good female friends, like platonic female friends, will just get you in the door because they may have some viewpoints, you can bounce ideas off of them. And also it just helps you see women as people first, 100%.
Yeah.
And on top of it too, to all the young guys out there who are once again 18, 19, 20, because the vast majority of quote unquote incel or pickup artistry guys are usually just guys who are very young adults or very late teenagers are just trying to figure things out, are, in their own little narcissistic bubble of self-loathing, which to be fair, a lot of guys just naturally are. It's just kind of the way that men are socialized, unfortunately. But just in general, I think another thing is as you get older, just try to age gracefully, just try to pick up hobbies as you go. Once again, talk about grooming, try to develop more as a person, try to travel, once again, try to have more genuine partnerships. I can tell you what, especially somebody who almost exclusively does online dating, I have had by far the most success of dating and relationships and sex in general the second I hit 30 years old. Straight up. Second I hit 30 years old, it's the door opened for women who actually wanted to give me a fucking chance. And I'm not saying that once again as so sorry is me thing, but it genuinely is I literally hit 30 and my dating options went threefold from what it was before because you grew up, you matured, you got more hobbies, you hopefully gained some economic stability, and that's mostly what straight women and, to be fair, partners in general, but especially this heteronormative sense, are looking for. So just try to develop as a person, and then eventually, once again, just get hobbies. You will find a woman eventually if you just keep putting yourself out there. You don't have to manipulate, you don't have to do this fucking pickup artistry shit, you don't have to become an incel, you don't have to become fucking right-wing or alt-right, or even, you don't even have to be left-wing necessarily, although at this point being left-wing actually does help to pick up straight women, just being honest, guys. But also be your authentic self. If you haven't quite seen the light of the degradation, the economic degradation of society yet, that's more your problem. But if you have seen that, that also appeals to a lot of women because a lot of women see that shit too. But at the same time, just develop as a person. That is just 100% the best thing I could say. Develop as a person, get older, age gracefully, and I promise you, you will find a woman eventually. You just got to keep trying.
I'd like to pair that with a piece of advice that is some of the best advice I can think of, that I really think that is a little more shallow. Like Taylor, as he said, it's important to develop yourself, develop your intuition, develop your hobbies. But if you want to talk purely about the physical, right, the liminal part of it, if you are a straight man, learn to perceive yourself. And this is going to sound weird to a lot of guys out here because I know this is just not how we're social. Perceive yourself as a sexual object, a sexual person, because we as guys, we have this idea that women, they have all these feelings that they're bringing to it, and we have to live up to all of these ideas of being a man. We have to appeal to all these emotions. But the thing is, there are women out there for every guy that exists who like your body. They like you for completely selfish reasons. And it's not because you're so nice, and it's not because you appeal to them or because you do some pickup artistry. It's because for every guy, there's someone that just looks at you and in a completely selfish way says, I like that guy. And men don't think of ourselves that way. We're kind of conditioned and trained not to. But there are women that are seeing you that way. And if you can understand that, you'll feel a lot better, and you won't probably have so much hang-ups about approaching them. Because that'll happen. There's going to be someone out there. Most of these pickup artists who get laid, that's why they get laid. It's not because they do the magic tricks.
Yeah, exactly. They try to style themselves or portray themselves as, yeah, you're right, sexual romantic beings who are interested in the pleasure of somebody else. Obviously, that's superficial on their end, of course. But at the same time, that is what they're trying to signal. And on top of it, too, you're right about body type, right? Like, there are a lot of chubby, schlubby guys who get hot women, or to be fair, just women in general that they like or are attracted to. And, it's one of those things where there are plenty of women who are chubby chasers out there. There are plenty of women who like, just skinny Kurt Cobain looking fucking guys. There's women who like in between. There's women who like a lot of tall guys. Obviously, the tall guys are more common that women tend to like. But at the same time, there's women who like also like short kings. They exist. Like, you just literally have to just keep trying once again, just find an aesthetic that works for you. And on top of it, if you are like a chubby big guy, you can dress in a way that accentuates your fucking style. You know what I mean? Or if your hairline fucking sucks, you can shave your head off and then like contour ways to make that more aesthetically pleasing. Like, you could look like fucking Johnny Sins or whatever the fuck. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, you could just look like no matter what. And to be fair, if your hair is like really good, but you use shitty products, just find better products. Use shampoo and conditioner and oils, or if you smell bad, use things that don't make you smell so fucking bad. Like, there's just so many things you can do to fix things that you see as deficiencies. We're like, well, women are never going to like me because of this reason. I promise you, if you style it in a way that works, you will do just fucking fine.
And ultimately, like, I mean, this is the hardest thing to fix, and this is the thing people hate to hear the most. You got to work on the vibes. And I think that's a constant battle. I think Taylor and I probably would both say ourselves, we're constantly, I mean, just for yourself, you're going, what's my vibe? What energy do I bring, do I put out in the world? Not exclusively because you want to engage with women, but, you got to get to a place where you feel comfortable and where you are being yourself. And, with some exceptions, especially as you get older, you're going to find you do have to be nice, not disingenuous. Like, maybe when you're real young, you can be like a moody asshole and it'll work on some poor girl that's stuck with you. But, like, it is helpful, like, you're nice to them, which is a big thing. I don't know why so many guys have hang-ups about that. I'm not saying you have to worship them. It's good to be nice. It will help a lot.
Yes, exactly. Just be supportive, be nice. And if a girl just sees you only as a friend or whatever, what's wrong with having a girl who sees you as a friend? Like, legitimately, what's wrong with that? Is that like so bad that a woman is just like, oh, there's this nice guy who's friendly with me? Is that so fucking bad?
The worst thing you could have is have a friend. Oh my God.
Yeah, what the holy shit, that's so awful. But on top of it too, there's like plenty of guys who I think are like insanely unattractive and unpleasant and just shitty like individuals like Pete Davidson and Adam Driver. I'm like, I don't understand why any women would find those fucking losers attractive, but they do. They're seen as very attractive to a certain type of fucking woman because the vibes are just there for certain types of them. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you just got to find your fucking vibe. You really do.
Yeah, I think we could talk about this a lot longer, but I think for an intro, I think we've done pretty good.
No, absolutely. And to be fair, we will totally get into more manosphere stuff. We'll get into the red pill. We'll get into incels in general, but this is just basic pickup artistry, which once again, I think is the progenitor of all those things. Unfortunately, pickup artists are somehow maybe the least evil of all the things I just mentioned. Perhaps, maybe.
I think that it goes down some darker roads. That's why we kind of ended with Rushvi, because, the other guys are dorks and are pretty heinous at times, but what comes after, it's darker, it gets bleaker, and at least you could argue that there's a direct line to a lot of the weird mental problems we're seeing with young men right now to where it goes.
No, absolutely. So yeah, with that positive note out of the way, because like I said, we will totally get into that in a later episode, but we will have to close that for now, because otherwise we could talk for 7 hours about this. But either way, that is our section on pickup artists. So let's get into our Pugables without further ado. So you can follow me at Carlos Chantor on Twitter.com. And as well, please subscribe and follow us on both of our YouTube and our Spotify channels, where we are uploading every episode simultaneously to both platforms. And as well as always, please donate to the Lucifer And The Father campaign. Of course, as always, our good friends Scott, Sean, Robert are creating a fantastic series. At the very moment, as of recording this episode, I believe they are at least close to finishing filming of Lucifer And The Father, correct? Am I wrong about that? Or are they done?
Yeah, they have made some remarkable progress. I keep saying it at the end of every episode, little by little, but Lucifer The Father, it's happened. I believe finished the episode. Trailer is locked and loaded. Scott, as of late, been talking to Taylor and I quite a bit, giving us a lot of, he's always been giving us little updates, but Lucifer and the Father, episode 2 and I believe 3 is a go. Scott has a lot to say, and he's got a lot of news to share with everyone. So again, that doesn't mean that they don't need your support. Please go give them support, give them some monetary donations, share their cause. The more that we learn about this, we keep saying it sounds like a very ambitious project. They're doing a lot. They're really trying to pull out all the stops and make this like a real production. So any support that we can give them, they've been good friends to us for a long time now, really.
Absolutely. And, of course, our pledge is always that if you donate to the crowdfund Crowdfund. Send us an email, send us a YouTube comment, send us just any proof that you donated, and we will within reason match those donations about $20-25 because we want Scott, Sean, and Robert's dreams to continue to become a reality as it already is. And stay tuned because we might have even more IRL updates and in-person updates from them soon. Fingers crossed. We're still working on that. We haven't quite finalized anything, but we're still working on that from the guys there. And, as always, too, of course, we've been plugging this since it happened, but the Luigi Mangione Defense Fund, of course, he's going to go to trial at some point, hopefully fairly soon. It's one of those things where, of course, Luigi has been screwed over by the criminal justice system. At the moment, he would be found not guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. There's no convincing evidence that he did what he's been accused of, which once again is the killing of Brian Thompson. He did not do that. But either way, we need to be there morally and financially to support him because at the end of the day, he is just like everybody else who's being screwed over by our system. Just because he's economically more powerful than a lot of people who are facing down the barrel of several state governments and the federal government doesn't mean that we should just let him be a sacrificial lamb to this current fascist administration. We need to stand by him because he's a cool fucking guy. By all accounts, everybody in his life fucking loved him. He's somebody who's once been railroaded by our criminal justice system, even though he's gotten a lot of support inside of prison. There's those pictures of him like hanging out with, there was like a Cuban dissident or Venezuelan dissident who's just like in a picture with him, like bizarre.
And this kind of ties into what I was saying about Mamdani. So what is important about Luigi?
And he's in the Manhattan Secure Detention Facility. He's literally in Mamdani's New York jails.
What's meaningful about supporting Luigi, right, is that they tried to railroad him. They tried to make him a patsy because they wanted to solve this high-profile case. They have no meaningful evidence, nothing that's going to stick. But when they saw the groundswell of support, the solidarity that we gave to them, they became even more committed to giving him the most severe punishment possible because they wanted to make sure that we all see it. They want us all to see that they plucked someone up and that even with all of our support, we weren't able to stop what they were going to do to them. And the agitation amongst people is what's important here, right? It's about making sure that this guy, who, I'm sorry, they don't have any meaningful evidence. He is absolutely not guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And they are enraged by the level of friendship and brotherhood and camaraderie that has been extended to him for that. It frustrates them, and they want to make sure that we all know that they can do whatever they want. So we need to push back on that. Please, any support you can give Luigi, whether it's monetary, whether it's spreading the word, whether it's sending him a letter. Like we say all the time, he loves getting a short letter, and he'll probably write you back. That's everything I've ever heard about the guy. We gotta support him. Even if you don't see any direct parallels to your life, or you're kind of like, you don't understand maybe the foibles of the case, we need to stand by innocent people who are put in this position, especially when it's on such a high profile.
Exactly. And, just like with the Lucifer and the Father campaign, just send us an email, send us a YouTube comment, show us that you donate to the campaign, and we will, within good reason, match those donations about $20-25 because both Brian and I have donated to the cause. We believe in it, and it's just a worthy cause worth caring about at the very end of the day. It really is. And, another thing that's also worth covering and celebrating is our Patreon account. Of course, we've been having our Patreon account for a while. We don't have any biters yet, but maybe you could be the first one of ours today. We have plenty of amazing tiers. Of course, the first one that we've been covering and the best one we've been covering, in my opinion, is the $5 tier where you get every episode of 48 hours early. Because as we always say, the first 48 hours are the most important. When you're trying to rizz up some Stacy Foyd baddie that you just really want to have sex with and care nothing about afterwards, you got to listen to elements of this show because we can give really good practical negging advice. You know what I mean, Brian?
That's the thing. When you donate to our Patreon, you are going to get access to all of our hot tips. All of the ladies are listening to the Millennials, our old podcast, and they're all sitting around like, what are Brian and Taylor going to talk about next week? Oh my God, what was it like at the end of history? Oh my God, I love hearing old Millennials. And you can get right in there and you can say, well, actually, the end of history was an illusion and it influenced the media of the time, including Austin Powers. But as 9/11 showed, the end of history was a fallacy. And they're going to fucking cream. They love that shit.
No, absolutely. So yeah, definitely support our Patreon because we're just cool ass guys and trying to make some fucking money. And Brian, as always, do you have any pluggables as well? Because I'm interested if you have any new pluggables.
As always, you can follow me at JLoBiafra on Instagram and Threads. Follow the podcast at Millennials Are Old Pod on Instagram and Threads, and the Facebook page Millennials Are Old. Again, Instagram and Threads are the best way to harass me, to bother me. If you are a pickup artist and you feel besmirched, if you feel put upon by this episode, if you feel like I've been withholding or I've misrepresented your movement, please message me and threaten me or tell me that you're going to dox me. I love that. I love to hear it. Also, if you need any advice in your personal lives or your romantic advice, please don't reach out to me for them. I don't want that kind of responsibility. I don't need it. Don't like it.
But no, of course, as always, the Instagram and Facebook accounts, of course, we love them. You know, we get great discussions on them. Usually people calling us losers and other derogatory terms for homosexuals, you know, but at the same time, when was the last time you got an insult on the Instagrams, Brian?
Billy Jack episodes. That was when everyone got mad at me. Oh, the boomers got mad at me. And every once in a while, I check in, and all I see is fucking Tom Laughlin's nephew trying to post things about Mamdani, trying to get people in the Billy Jack, Tom Laughlin groups excited about, you know, sock dems, and they don't seem to care. I gotta tell you, they do not care.
That's so fucking funny. But you know, speaking of trying to make people care about social democratic and democratic socialist reforms, I think that ends our episode on pickup artists. You know, Brian, I'm going to try to pick myself up very soon and put my ass to sleep because I'm very fucking tired. How about you?
Yeah, I'm going to bed right after this.
Hell yeah. So have a good night, everybody. Sleep tight, and we're going to come back with a great episode for you next time.